Any funny when you look back, like when you're young. I used to go to Lions Tea House, yeah, and it was massive. Everybody used to go there, And I was working in the fruit market, and I was coming in with my bib, with a bib on, big Dr. Martin boots and all that sort of thing, and look the business turn ups and all that, and the Dr. Martin's little vest, and looked good, you know what I mean? And everybody were in the tea house, and I just finished the market, and I felt really like the chap, you know what I mean? And I remember one day sitting in there one day with my pals, Richie Allen and a few other people, and Gary Francis and Jakemans and all them sitting in there and having coffees and teas and just looking out, yeah. And I see this guy across the road. And this guy, I thought to myself, this guy is the business, you know what I mean? You got to look at the old boys and what they was like in them days, yeah. And I walked out up there, and walked over to the guy. I said, "Excuse me." I said, "Alfie Cousins." He went, "Yeah, mate." He talked like that proper, the old boy, that sort of voice, yeah. "Yeah, yes, mate." I should put my hands out. I said, "I'm really pleased to meet you, Alf." And he fought Tommy Farr, Alfie Cousins. And he was a good fighter, mate. And you looked at his eyes, and there was all cushioned with scars, like scars on it. And you think, oh, mate, he's had some fights in his life, And he was the governor of West London, really, Alfie Cousins. He could really have it. Right old boy, you know what I mean? Right old timer. Then you had Silly Bevin. Silly Bevin with a trilby hat. He's like, used to walk about with a pinstripe suit on. Another fighter, could march on, in them days. Good fighters, And you had, Kit Carew. Fucking hell. You know what? Kit Carew, in those days when I'm talking about, I met these people, yeah, as a kid, 15, 16 years of age, yeah, and you want to be like them, yeah, you look at them and you think, fucking hell, mate, these guys have been through a lot, yeah. And this Kit Carew was one of the people in West London, especially in Acton, that no one bothered with. No one upset this guy. He'd go in a pub, and he'd go in a pub and drink all night and work all day. One of them guys, yeah. It's like he'd come out the pub, go straight home, jump in the bed, filthy dirt with his boots on, get out and go straight and dig holes. And he used to dig holes in them days with shovels. No JCBs or things like that. Everything was shovel and picks. Massive, great big arms, massive shoulders. And they could really have it. Kit Carew could really have it, yeah. He was about 5'9", 5'8", big muscular guy, yeah. And he really, a big steam engine, mate, he was in trouble. So there's Silly Bevin, Alfie Cousins, Kit Carew, and Dave Brayford. Dave Brayford, old demolition worker. He was a lot younger than that lot, yeah. But Dave Brayford, very powerful man. Used to do a lot of work for London Demolition, yeah. And Dave Brayford used to be in a pub at night time until it turned out, yeah. And they'd all be drunk. All the guys that on the demo would be drunk as sex. But that anchor, before it became the Harbour Lights, was the proper pub. I don't think there's many people around London would go in that pub and come out laughing. Do you know what I mean? They wouldn't. That pub there, mate, was the business. Everybody in that pub could have a right scrap, one of them places. But Dave Brayford was the governor all around the area, really. I mean, anybody that worked with him, mate, if you worked with Dave Brayford and, you mucked about or didn't do proper, you'd have a row with him, He used to carry bottles. He used to carry the oxy bottles, one on his left arm, one on his right arm, and run around with them, you know what I mean? Yeah, he was a bad man. I worked with him one day. I only lasted a day. I couldn't work with this geezer, you know what I mean? He's too fucking nuts. He got me on a ball, yeah, on a ball, holding the ball like that, and he took me up to this top to take something off, yeah? Some asbestos or something, yeah? And I got off the ball, and the fucking wall was rocketing about. And I grabbed hold of the ball again and got hold of the wire, and it went through my right through my hand. The wire was like all bits and pieces. It stuck right in my hand. And I said, take me down, you know. And he was swinging about, mate. And I went, no, that's not for me. This ain't for me, Dave, you know what I mean? And you had Jackie Lane, and you had Tommy Green. I mean, Tommy Green is a bit naughty for what he did to Joe Rouse and all that bit. Tommy Green was a proper top man with Jackie Lane. Him and Jackie Lane, I used to see them. No scaffolding, mate, in the big chimneys. They get up there on top of the jib, on the jib of the crane, go right up on the jib, get off of the jib, right, dig things into the wall, climb up onto the top of the chimneys, and on top of the chimneys, they got about 2-inch piece of cast iron, yeah, that goes round the chimney. So they're standing there, hitting the cast iron with mattocks, yeah, and they're smashing the cast iron, knocking it over, and then they start taking it down brick by brick with the mattocks, yeah. Mate, these people, and they wouldn't knock the bricks from the outside, they'd knock them back down the hole, yeah. So they'd knock out a big bit of the chimney down the bottom and knock out bricks, yeah, so they fall inwards, yeah, and someone would be down there chucking the bricks out. Fuck that job. No, I went, nah, that ain't for me. But there was all nutcases, complete and out and out nuts, you know. And they go on the anchor at night time, you know, they stay there, get in there about 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock, stay there till closing time, drunk as sex. And Dave Brayford, mate, was a proper guy, yeah. And my mate, Terry Haley, the guy who did me all this, yeah, his dad, Dennis Haley, yeah, he used to have a big demolition firm as well, yeah, and they used to all meet up in that pub, and they're all lunatics. Like my mate Terry Haley, his dad, Dennis Haley, all fucking nutcases, mate, they're all nutters, you know, all demo mad people, you know what I mean? They're just completely off their rockers, and they can all scrap. And me being like I wanted to be special around my area, you know, because all this lot here was marching on. They had all the Hardings, you know, you had Johnny Harding. I speak to John now. John, you know, who's a messenger. You had Johnny Harding, Charlie Harding, Bimbo Harding, Dennis Harding, Alan Harding. I think there's about 6 or 7 brothers, yeah? They was all fucking lunatics. All lunatics, mate. You couldn't, you know, you can't upset them, because if you upset one, you're upsetting 5 or 6 of them, and they're all walking around with great big blades. You're going to get stabbed up, but everybody knew that in the pub. So you keep your distance from them. But John, George, and Charlie, and Dennis and Alan were all smart, especially John and George. Very smart people, always wear suits, long hair, good looking guys, got all the birds, but very dangerous. Very dangerous, always in all the pubs. Anchor, the Duck, what was the other one? The Duck, the Crown. There's all them little pubs, you know, and people, when they walked in that, mate, you know, they knew. I mean, crikey, about the time Andy Burke and Johnny Burke, yeah, the 2 brothers, fucking nuts, complete nuts. I mean, they ran up in Broadmoor, you know what I mean? But I think it was Andy. John and Andy loved their mum so much. The mum was as it should be, yeah. Their mum was number 1, yeah. And this guy run Andy Burke's mum down, right? And he shouldn't have done it, you know. Andy Burke put a big footly bit 44 or 45 in his mouth. Asked him and said to him, say the same thing again. Say the same thing again about my mum. Geezer went to open his mouth and he went, bang, blew the back of his head straight out, fucking all like that, yeah. People couldn't believe it. The people in the Crown, right? When he'd done it, people the other side of the Crown, about 5 or 6 feet away, more than that, was smothered with his brains and blood. Yeah, he got put into Baltimore for that, mate. Yeah. And I was talking to another guy the other day when I was down Twickenham, and the guy used to be in Baltimore with him. They say, well, he can't say nothing because he was as nutty as Fruitcake as well, but he said there was all nutters in there, mate. They was just as bad in there as what they all was on the street. They was stabbing people like it's going out of fashion in Baltimore. I thought, fucking hell. But yeah, Acton was a mad place, man. Was a mad place, but it was a good place, you know. My mate, it's a terrible shame. You know, you get pals that you know that are a little bit weird, you know. I used to have a guy called Danny Williams. Danny Williams had run a building company, yeah, and he was my best pal. I was always with him 7 days a week. His wife didn't like me around him because I was to get him out of the house to go out and have a good time. So anytime I was around, she'd go, he ain't in. And I'd hear him in the background, oh, I'm coming out now, mate. She'd go mad, you know what I mean? Anyway, so there was a guy, because I was always with Danny. I mean, me and Danny was always fighting together. That was the time that I had the fight with Bindon down at the Cromwellian. I was with Danny Williams, yeah. Do you know what? I'll never forget that day, yeah, as long as I live. You know, being in the Cromwellian with Danny, and that Bindon started being a bully to Danny. And I said to Danny, you know, anyway, so when I give it to Bindon, shouted at him, screamed at him, and he said, Danny went, come, let's get out of here. And I went up the stairs, because it was downstairs, yeah. Went up the stairs, and Bindon come behind me and give me a clump on the chin. Gone, you know what I mean? And later on, it was my time, you know, later on, But anyway, Danny was my pal. I mean, you know, I used to work doing house conversions, knocking the walls down and all that. And I used to go, my pal was a guy called Richie Allen. But Richie Allen, he could have a right fight, Richie Allen, good boxer, yeah. And there was a guy called Mickey Burke. I don't know if he had anything to do with the Andy Burkes and Johnny, I'm not quite sure, but his name was Mickey Burke. And he was bald-headed. And he was one of the bullies of Acton, young Acton. He liked bullying people, yeah. He wasn't he was a bit older, but he used to bully everybody. You know, go around, bash him up. That was his game, yeah. So Richie Allen was training to be a good fighter. I think one of the ABAs, but a good fighter. And Andy Burke bashed his best mate up, right? So Richie Allen knew Andy Burke was around by the swimming pool because he used to hang about around there. When people would come out of the swimming pool, he used to like get into them for some money and all that. That was his game. Anywhere that people were, like swimming pools, he'd be around, you know. Cinemas, he'd be outside of cinema waiting for people and they're taking their money. So he was a liberty taker. So he's come out, Andy Burke, hasn't he? He's come out and he's got a bit leery with Richie Allen. And Richie Allen said, right, me and you have a fight. And he thought he was laughing at him because Richie Allen was about 17. Andy Burke was about, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, but in his 30s, yeah. 40, he could walk over with the kids about 15, 16, Richie Allen. Mate, bang, bang. Richie Allen bashed him up bad, man. Bashed him up real bad. When I say real bad, cut him to pieces, smashed him to pieces. But that day, the day after that, Andy Burke never got seen again. When I say never got seen again, he got seen, but he wasn't bullying anybody. I think he deflated him. Richie Allen deflated him. And my mate John Harding, I talk to John Harding now on Messenger, yeah? He told me that Richie Allen died of AIDS. It's fucking unbelievable, isn't it? You know, you think, you know, but I know he was a little bit gay anyway, gay that way, but some people that are gay can have right fights. Look at my mate Fish. Don't ever underestimate fish, you know what I mean? Because fish can never work out. I know people say about their bus and all that game, but that was just a silly thing, you know what I mean? I mean, you know, no big punches thrown and all that, you know, even though, you know, people run fish down. Don't worry about that. Fish ain't no mug, yeah? He can have it, but not only can fish have it, yeah? Fish is very nasty. He's a nasty guy. He isn't a Queensbury Walls sort of guy. He'll have a Queensbury Wall with you. He'll have a stand-up fight with you, but you can't win. You can't win. You might win the day. You might win the week. But one day, he will smash you to pieces. He will come in your house at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, climb through your window, you know. I thought about that, right? I was in Albany, yeah. My first bit of bird I got, my first bit of bird to go to Albany, yeah. I met this, what is this guy's name, man? I shouldn't really say it until I know his name, yeah. But anyway, I met this guy in Albany, Mickey Theo, not Mickey Theo, Mickey, something like that sort of name, yeah. Mickey something, yeah. And this guy was grey, 5'6", 5'7", but dangerous, mate. He was dangerous. And some of the stories that guys told me about him, Mickey, I forget his name, I'll get his name in a minute. And what he used to do, he couldn't really have a fight, but he was one of them people that plotted up and waited. He waited and waited and waited. If you upset him and took the piss out of him and give him a clump or whatever, he'd go, okay. What's his name? Mickey Keogh. Not Theo, Keogh, Mickey Keogh. And he's one of them guys that would wait for you, yeah? Wait. And he would come in your house, go through your window and chop you up with an axe. That's what his game was. And I think he was doing something like 17 years when I was in Albany with him for doing the exact same thing. He'd done about 8, 9 people, mate. You know, and in the end, you know, he just got captured. You know, someone come in the bedroom, right, and captured him and got hold of him and bashed him up. But, you know, even with an axe, he got bashed up. He couldn't, but he used to do him in bed. Mickey Keogh. People might even know that who I'm talking about, but this geezer was dangerous, mate. Grey hair geezer. Fucking hell. You know, and he was in Albany when I was in Albany, and he told me about him, Peter Kelly. He went, he's dangerous. He said he's dangerous. And that is exactly the same as fish. Fish was exactly the same as that. You might take the mickey out of fish because he's gay. He'll have a fight with you, fish, right? And if by chance, which is by chance, that you maybe win that fight, yeah? He ain't going to take your hand and say, well done. They go, okay, nice one. And he will come back later and come through your window or wait outside your house and chop you to death. That's fish. I've known fish a long time. And I know exactly where he comes from and what he's about, you know. But as I say, when I was in Acton and I was like up and coming, and when I got the job, because when I was to go down the Anchor, when it was the Anchor, and then it became Harbour Lights, yeah, and I was always with Danny, I was an up and coming fighter, yeah. So I was very smart. I was always Prince of Wales check suits, you know, black suit, blue suit, but all checks and all that, yeah. Like Alan, Charlie, George, Johnny Harding, same thing, yeah. But I was the same, always suited up, booted up, and smart, and always wearing a hat. I always wore a tawby hat, silly, innit? And I was up and coming, you know, as a fighter. So I was always looking for jobs to look after doors and things like that. And I was down at the fruit market, yeah, and Harry Holland Harry Holland, the promoter. People must know who Harry Holland is, his promoter. And he ain't done no promoting Harry for some time because his son's son got murdered in Old Richmond Bridge. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but he did, yeah. But Harry Holland, he had a big company, Harry, you know. He had a company, looking after pubs and that. And I was in the market, only as a kid, 15, 16, but big and liked to fight. So there was another guy in there called Derek Pearce. Derek Pearce, you might have seen Derek. He was holding a book outside a cafe in Hammersmith High Street, yeah. And I took a picture of him holding the book, grey hair. But he was a dangerous man in his time. And we used to work on the doors of clubs. You know, Harry used to pick us up with another guy, Harry Holland, another guy. We'd drive to a pub. Me and Derek would get out, another guy, and we'd look after that pub and go and get you 50 quids or 30 quids a night, yeah? It wasn't a lot of money. It was a lot of money. It wasn't, but it was, if you understand me, yeah? So one day, he came up to us, Harry. He went, look, we've got to go in North London. I forget now in a pub. And it mad when you can't forget now in the pubs. Right? He said, we've got to go to this pub in North London. And there's a lot of trouble there with these Hells Angels. I went, fuck that, you know what I mean? I'm not getting involved with that, you know. He went, no, we've got to sort it out. So about 6 of us went over there. And when we went in there, it was just like quiet. You know, they was playing this sort of like Hells Angel music, funny, weird music, you know what I mean? And I'm only a kid, I don't get about 16, 15, 16. And I'm big and I can have a fight and that's it, you know? So all of a sudden, music's playing and, you know, people start coming in and they come in leather jackets and this, that and the other and dodgy old hats and fuckers, whatever, you know. And all of a sudden these birds started walking in and one of these birds has a white rat on her shoulder. And these were road rats, they called these people, road rats. And they were aggro, mate. They were fucking aggro. I mean, they were the ones that smashed the pub up, you know, and it kicked off. It really kicked off in that pub. I ain't saying who won the fight. I ain't saying who lost the fight, you know what I mean? But believe me, the fight was a bit over the top, you know. There was all fucking big chains flying around, you know, bicycle chains and big bars and all that. But it wasn't just us. It wasn't just us who was fighting. It was also the people in there that was in there whilst we was there. And all that road rat started coming in and having a fight. But they didn't have it their own way. Believe me, they didn't have it their own way. But I said to Harry, after it all finished, I ain't coming here again. Harry said, nor we coming here again. You know, you can't come back. You can't go back to them sort of places where them people, it's their pub. It's their pub, you know. The guys got us in there because there's too much aggro. He never wants to see them again. But after the big fight we had them, you know they're going to come back later on. You know, so we went, nah, we're not having that no more. Yeah, but I mean, I loved, when I was Crispin's Wine Bar, mate. Crispin's Wine Bar, before I really got shot and all that, you know, from out there. But Crispin's Wine Bar, when I sort of like went in there, and I run that wine bar. I was only young. You know, went in there. My mate Tony Williams, Danny Williams is my mate's brother. He run it, yeah. And he asked me, because I was a young fighter, he said, do I want a job? Because Tony Williams used to come down the boxing club where I used to train. So I was to spar with Tony, and Tony asked me, do you want a job? I went, yeah, all right. And I went up there when I said the Crispins. It was a nice wine bar, Ealing Broadway, terrific, massive place. I went, yeah, I'll have some of that. And, you know, but there was loads and loads of yuppies. And all they used to do is buy a bottle of wine, sit outside or sit out the back with one bottle of wine and it'd be there all night. And that's all they drink all night, talking. You know, so Ken Edwards, the guy that owned Crispin, said to me, they got to go, Ray. We've got to try and somehow get rid of them because they ain't spending no money. But when I say these people, they weren't no trouble. All they want to do is sit there and fucking talk and not spend no money. So they had to go because it ain't there just for them to go and nag. It's there to earn money. So anyway, started getting rid of them, started getting my own people in there. So my own people were going in there. But the only thing when you get your own people in there, they start having fights with these yuppies. So in the end, the yuppies left. They didn't know what to do with it, yeah? But then I started to have lots of fights in there. Loads of fights. Because it was only me that worked the door, you know. And sometimes at night time, Ken Edwards has asked me to look after the VIP lounge upstairs. And I'd go in there. After everybody'd gone, I'd go up there and look after that, yeah? And so there'd always be trouble. You always get these arseholes who want to cause aggro. And being I was a young kid, a young fighter, I was that little bit, how can I say, better than what they were. Because I didn't drink. All I done was train. And all I done was fight. You know, boxing gloves, fight. And all I'd done was, if I had a fight, that'd be me. I'd box them, boom, bang, you know. So I've had a few fights in that Crispin's. And the day that I had that bit of trouble in there with people coming in that I actually knew, you know, and people disrespected me, yeah. I'd come in there and say, do me a favour, don't cause no trouble in there. This is my job. You know, I get X amount per weekend and I don't want to lose the job. So do me a favour, behave yourself, yeah? I'm your pals, you know, I mean, don't cause no problems. And they're mugging me off, really, because as soon as they got in the cocktail bar, they started throwing ice about and all that and thinking the bottle was a drink and all that. So they had to go. But being that they was older than me and being that they knew me, it was a bit harder to tell them to fuck off. So anyway, one of them, I ain't saying who it was, one of them got really leery, yeah? And he was the one that had, like, he was really the one in charge. I'm not saying he could have the best, he was the best one, he could have a right fight out of that lot, but he was the one that you had to control. So I said to him, do me a favour, please, calm it down, mate. You're going to let me lose my job. I don't want to lose this job. It's a nice bit of money every week. Don't back it up for me, yeah? Yeah, whatever. Kept on and on and on. So in the end, I said to him, listen, I said, what's got to happen, yeah? Right? I said, listen, what's got to happen, right? Me and you go round the corner and have a fight. I said, because I'll tell you what, whatever one of us, if I beat you, you don't come back again. You take your mates and piss off, yeah? If you beat me, I'll leave and never going to come back to this wine bar. How's that? He went, okay. So he went into the cocktail bar and I thought, I'm in trouble here because he's going to tell them they're going to come with him. But he didn't. He come walk round the corner with me and round the corner by Crispin's wine bar is a little alleyway that goes round the back of Crispin's, right? So as he walked round there, he walked into a doorway, right? He's in a doorway, so he's getting leery. I ain't saying too much at the time. He's getting leery. I thought, like that, to make up as a fire punch. He put his hands up like that. Bang! My fist went straight through. I knocked him spark out, and I'll give him a lot after that, yeah? He was spark out, he was gone, mate. He didn't have no chance. So I walked back into Crispin's, walked back into the cocktail bar, and I said, tell you what to do, right? There was 3 or 4 of them in there, they could have, steamed into me. So I can't beat 4, they've got bottles and all that, but I'll have a go. So I went, do me a favour, go around the corner and pick your mate up and fuck off, right? Because that was our deal. Right, I went, yeah, whatever. And they walked out, and you could, I was standing at the end, I walked out of Crispin's, looked to where they went, and you could see him dragging him off, like, and he looked round at me, and I thought, yeah, it's all over, it's finished, you know what I mean? At least it's done. That weekend, I think it was that weekend, yeah. You know, I felt uneasy. I felt uneasy. You know, that feeling that something was going to happen. And I come out of there and I was supposed to be what happened, the worst of it was I was supposed to go over to Lucky's to see Dominic McCoy, my mate, to see if I could get a job. But I was so, what do you call it, I wanted to get out home. I live around my mum's, yeah? I just wanted to get home, yeah? One of them nights, innit? You have a pissy night and, you know, just get home. And I walked down the road and I done a right to go past, down Ealing towards it, by the common, across the common, go down all the slopes, up the other side, put round the back, walk up to my mum, come out by Acton Town Station and go home. So as I'm walking down the road, yeah, by Ealing Common, I heard something. Lucky I fucking did. I heard something and it was a car, right, but coming up slow. And I noticed something sticking out the window and it was a gun. If it had been a big caliber gun, if it had been a big caliber shotgun, it'd have took my fucking leg off, I think. But it took a bit of my calf. It didn't take it off, but I had about, I don't know, 30, 40 pellets in my fucking calf. You know what I mean? And if I'd have laid there and just cried like a baby, I think they'd have got out of the car and come over and loaded it up and bang, bang, done me up, yeah, done me. But I didn't, I just ran. The adrenaline made me run and they couldn't catch me because I was down the slopes and they couldn't come down the slope and all that crap. And I got away, yeah. But it's like everything, isn't it? You know, a later date was my time. A later date was my time. I ain't gonna tell you what happened, but a later date was my time. And I done what I had to do. And now that same geezer is not too good. He's looking at a big bit of bird and he's in a wheelchair. Anyway, so cut a long story short, that was then, yeah. And then I loved my job at Crispin's. And then I started to get jobs at sort of Central Park and Lucky's and the venue Victoria. I mean, I told big stories about the venue, yeah? And big stories, fucking some of the stories that the venue, a lot of people don't believe, you know what I mean? Because they're big, mate. They're big fucking stories, you know what I mean? They're things that happens in them clubs, them bands, and there's big bands that are playing, big groups that are playing. There's always big aggro, you know what I mean? You know, like sugar, like fucking, you got Bad Manners and all that, there was fucking murders that night, you know what I mean? But that's another story that I've told before, but I'll tell them again. I love them stories, you know? I remember working down the road. I worked down the road for 2 days in a club down there. What was the name of the fucking thing now? I forget the name of it now. I'm quite bad with names, I swear I am. Anyway, but this club was part down by Amwell, yeah? And they asked me, to go down and knock on the door. So I went, okay. So I was getting good money. The kids gave me £100 a night, Friday and Saturday, all right? So Friday was aggro, was a white aggro night, you know, but I had people on the door with me. What was the name of the fucking place? Nearly coming. People on the door with me were proper people, yeah, and they handled it. Saturday, mate, fucking hell. Saturday, there's a firm that come in there, mate. It kicked off, mate, and I got it across the back of the neck. It wasn't a bottle, must have been a hammer or bar or something, yeah? it knocked me fucking for 6. It knocked me unconscious, mate. You know, and not did it only did it knock me unconscious, but mate, I got smashed to pieces. When I hit the floor, they booted me something terrible. You know, they smashed all my face, all my fucking jaw, everything, all my body, black and blue. You know, when I eventually woke up, I had to go to hospital. Mate, oh, fuck that. That was that club. I went, fuck that. Do you know what I mean? It's okay having a row, but when you got, you know, when it happens like that, you know, no one's behind your back, because, you know, when I worked at Lucky's, it was back to back. You know, you fought back to back. It was like people, you know, back to back. If you're back to back, people can't do things. But this fucking place, I was there by myself, really. One outside, me inside, and another geezer over the back there. And then they come in and done me with that. And it's battered me, man. You know what I mean? They couldn't, I mean, I left it. I didn't know who it was or what it was, yeah. Made myself busy. I went down with a couple of pals of mine to find out who these people were, so we could go back at them and, you know, do a business. But everybody was staunch. I think it was Wilkinson, you know. I always think it was Jimmy and a few other people that come in that place. Where was it? What's the name of it now? Fucking hell. Always think it was Wilkinson, yeah? Because, you know, it's the sort of things he would have done, do you know what I mean? And that little firm, they come and they bashed me up in there, yeah? Anyway, bang, bang, well, I've got loads of stories that I'll tell later on or whatever, yeah, nice one.